breaking barriers and bridging the gaps between patients and doctors. Welcome to Brainstorming with the Docs and your co-hosts, Dr. Glenn Harrison and Dr. Kolby Condos.
All right, everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Brainstorming with the Docs. I'm Dr. Kolby Condos. My co-host, as always, Dr. Glenn Harrison. How's it going, buddy?
Doing good. How are you this fine evening, Dr. Kolby?
Good, man. This is one that is going to be pretty impactful for some people. I think that it's maybe people don't often associate. Yes, exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that this is one that if you have questions and they're not being answered, then maybe you need to look in this direction. So today we were talking about the missing piece of hormones and some tests that maybe aren't being ordered and why you really need to have those hormones ordered in order to get like a really complete and thorough picture. Right. If this is your first time watching or listening to the podcast or video, and you like it, please hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications because we're going to continue to roll out new content like this regularly. And hopefully we cover something that you get value out of. So let's talk hormones.
Okay.
So basically we can break them down into, two basic categories when we were outlining this. And those are metabolic hormones and then there's sex hormones, right? And they both play a really important part in our physiology, whether that's the regulation of energy, whether that's your libido, they play a key role and they're really complex and intertwined. And if you don't have all of them ordered or you're only getting a portion of them, then you may be missing it.
Yeah, the pieces are missed. So yeah, it's I think a big thing about hormones is people have all these bizarre symptoms. And I have a question on my paperwork, and you might as well intake paperwork. One of the questions are, do you have hormonal symptoms? Well, 90% of the people check yes, but what does that mean? So I always have to ask, you said you have this, what are you experiencing? And what people believe could be a hormonal symptom is across the universe. It could be absolutely anything.
Very broad.
Yeah. So I think people believe hormones are this kind of this behind the scenes, this secret twist, and you just got to fix it and everything is better. No, hormones are not that complicated for what we know. We can properly test them. We can manipulate them with natural strategies. And of course, there's the bioidentical hormone strategies. But yeah, hormones can be complicated, but they don't have to be. I think that's the gist of it. And especially if we know the data. So, as you were saying, having, breaking it down into two categories is metabolic hormones. And some of these are, and these things should be tested. And DHEA, that's we're not going to get into all the mechanisms of this because we'll be here all week, but DHEA should be measured. This is an adrenal hormone. It's needed for calm, cool, relaxation. It's also needed for testosterone production, mostly in females. If a female doesn't have as low testosterone, DHEA needs to be corrected and identified and tested. So DHEA is a good one. Cortisol. I know you and I both prefer salivary cortisol because it's the best indicator of free cortisol. And cortisol is not like one level throughout the day. It changes throughout the day.
Fluctuates a lot. You use it all day, every day.
So, and I was looking at this one lab that I had, and you could actually do a 4-part cortisol test at a blood lab. That would mean you'd have to go to the draw center 4 times in a day and get poked and give blood. So it's not very feasible. So the saliva kits you can take at home is probably the best. I'd still say.
Yeah, and then you just spit in 4 different tubes.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't need to get.
And then you mark them like 8 a.m., 10 a.m.
That's right. So cortisol is a very important adrenal test that can be done. Aldosterone is a good one too. There's a few different, the 24-hour urine aldosterone test is the very best. Now, why aldosterone again is an adrenal hormone, and aldosterone's claim to fame is to maintain salt content, facilitate blood pressure. And
use it in your kidneys, right? For filtration, for your GFR and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly right. So aldosterone hormone is pretty powerful. So this lady I was working with, and she had, she had crazy urinary frequency, and she was also dealing with shift work and exhaustion and all these other things for, years and years and years and years. And she went through the scope of all the reasons that why she would have urinary frequency. And she'd sometimes wake up 7 times in the middle of the night. So it was compromising her sleep and everything else after that. Like the podcast we did on sleep, you can refer to that one. But, it wouldn't matter all the sleep strategies for her. That wasn't going to be the biggest impact. How do you get her to stop needing to pee in the middle of the night? And with her, we checked aldosterone. Her aldosterone was in the tank, and that's an adrenal.
Yeah, so she wasn't like absorbing any liquids.
Yeah, she
Just
wasn't
going
able to
straight.
keep her salt in her body, so she could keep her water in her body, so she would just
Because water follows salt. For those
yeah,
that's how it works, right? You keep
yeah,
your salt and then the liquid follows it.
that's right. So you lose your salt, you lose your water. So that was her, and it wasn't until all the nephrologists and everybody, no one ever did a 24-hour aldosterone test. Now, it's one thing to find the problem. It's another thing to work on the problem. But at least we found
At least you've identified the problem.
Yeah, and now we'll manipulate the pieces that we can to improve, and she's already improving. So and then another one is pregnenolone. Now I know you like this hormone. You like
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Tell us about pregnenolone.
Well, pregnenolone is huge because you can actually get what's called a pregnenolone steal syndrome, and we're talking like STEAL. So there's certain mechanisms in your body where if you have a pregnenolone steal syndrome, then literally it's going to affect a lot of stuff.
right.
Again, we're not going to get super, super deep into it, but if you have unexplained things and you're like, I've looked everywhere, then you probably should look at your hormones, because if you have a pregnenolone steal syndrome, then you're going to want to get that corrected.
That's right. So back to metabolic hormones, we think adrenals, think DHEA, cortisol, aldosterone, and pregnenolone. Those are some of the big players. There's more, but those are the more. Those are the ones that need to be tested, and they're not testing them, like you said. And then we get into the sex hormones. So everybody, when they think hormones, they think sex hormones. Well, no, there's those adrenal hormones as well. And we didn't even talk about metabolic hormones being thyroid, but we did a big podcast on thyroid.
Yeah.
So we talk about all the different tests in there. That should also be on the agenda of hormones. But then when we get into sex hormones, we get into like all the different estrogens. The estrogen total is a great test. It's not commonly tested. A lot of times people will get estriol, estradiol, estrione, but they won't do estrogen total. And estrogen total incorporates all their xenoestrogens, fake estrogens, toxic estrogens, and your natural estrogens. Very, very important test. Testosterone free and total. A lot of times you get total, but you don't get free, and then luteinizing hormone can be good for certain applications, men and women, and follicle stimulating hormone. So those are some of them. And then a non-sex hormone or a non-hormone test that should be paired with every sex hormone test should be sex hormone binding globulin. Very, very important. And this is a hormone transporter. Your hormones can't work if you have too many transporters or not enough transporters. So to try not to make things too complicated, there's to take a step back, there's both metabolic hormones, and most metabolic hormones fall into that whole adrenal hormone that I mentioned, plus the thyroid hormones.
Right. And actually pregnenolone too. Like pregnenolone you use as a precursor for a lot of other.
That's true.
Things,
that's
like
very, very true. Yeah.
That's why you need to get the complete picture, right? Because it's like, oh, I'm low on this. Well, why? It could be one issue, or you could have a pregnenolone steal syndrome. So it's that's why you need to get all of them tested.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Because otherwise, you do half-ass labs, you get a half-ass outcome, and then you suffer for a few more years. And then you're like, okay, I have the courage. I'm going to hunt this down and try to figure it out again. Then you go and get another half-ass set of labs, and then you get a half-ass outcome. And then you go for another how many years? And we talked about hope on this channel. You can only try something so many times without getting an outcome before you lose hope and confidence that there's any solution.
Well, that's, I think too, a lot of people will, this is in my experience, a lot of people go like, well, it's pretty expensive to do that. Well, but how many times are you going to have to do something else before you get to the answer? So it's like, I would rather pay the piper one time and live my life after that, rather than trying to, and it sucks. Like, we get it.
Well, yeah. If a few $100s can actually change your life, what is a few $100 if it's going to change your life?
Yeah, and you don't know unless you test, right?
That's right. Yeah, you're just guessing. So there's the sex hormones that I mentioned. So the sex hormones and the metabolic hormones being adrenal and thyroid, and adrenal is kind of playing into pregnenolone as well. So that's the test that you need. I'll try to put them at the bottom of this link so people don't have to kind of rewind this and think of it. And then when you are going to your primary or your doctor or any kind of doctor, you show them the list. You say, these are the things I want, because they might say, oh yeah, we got everything that we need. No, there's reasons. There's
No.
reasons why
Yep.
these tests exist. Okay. So yeah, without knowing all the hormones, you don't see the dysfunction. And if you only have one piece of the picture, and I know we always talk about this on the channel of knowing and being certain, but you can actually start out on the right page and go down the right path versus starting out with limited information and taking the wrong path and spending a bunch of time, energy, effort, and resources and not getting to where you need. So, and if you get a provider that can put the pieces together with the data, because it's one thing to do a test and it's a whole other thing to interpret it and put the puzzle together. I think any lab interpretation should be able to put a puzzle together, make connections rather than just assume everything is a separate problem.
Right.
And I think that's the art about interpreting blood tests is putting the puzzle together where the puzzle can be put together. And I'm catching myself leaning into that almost every time. And I know you are. The longer in practice, the more you start to see connections. And if you don't, you're going to end up with 7 different symptoms, 7 different problems, 7 different strategies, and you're going to be kind of, I don't know, firing off into thin air.
Right.
Once you know these things, lots of things can change. Everything from thermal regulation, GI function, fertility, libido, hair, skin, nails, emotions,
Energy. Yeah.
energy,
Mental clarity, all this stuff. Like if your
sleep
hormones are all out of
cycles.
whack, like let's take testosterone, for instance. Like if your T's all out of whack, like you are going to have issues with not only like mental clarity, but then also like energy levels. And it's kind of the reason I chose that one is it's really kind of like a hot topic right now because we're talking about
Yeah,
like hormone replacement stuff.
that's right.
And it's not necessarily that that's inappropriate, but maybe it's not the complete picture. Or
That's
maybe it's like, something you could do 5 things before you got to that point, and then you don't
Mhm.
need it because you also don't want to give your body something that then it will downregulate its natural production of it. So the reason we're doing this is so that you can go, I have all these symptoms, right? I have low energy, brain fog, my libido's in the pot, whatever. I can't regulate my temperature, all this stuff. What's the problem with me? You can get these tests ordered so that then you can make a more informed decision with your doctor. And then you can start to implement the strategies that you think are going to be the most efficacious for you. You don't have to jump to this is what we're going to do, this intervention. You have options.
That's right. That's right. And the more you know, you can make, just like anything in life. I think the more you know and the more you know about the problem, aka in this scenario would be proper testing, the more, like you said, the more you can make an informed decision if it's right for you. And the more the more options you have, rather than
Yeah.
let's just run with this.
Yeah.
Big
Well,
stuff.
all your symptoms look like this. We ran, total testosterone's a little low. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Well, what could you have done before that, depending on what your findings were? There's certain dietary things you could do. There's exercise, there's nutrition, there's supplements, and then if you absolutely need to, then you can look at like the replacement, the bioidenticals and stuff
That's
like
right.
that. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of other options other than just those.
Yeah. And the bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, it's always going to be there. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
so it's always there. Um, So we talk about what's the strategy once you have the data. What are like you said, lifestyle pieces, nutritional pieces, sleep strategies, detoxification, 3 rules of hormones. You make them, you use them, and you lose them. Detoxification, the inability to lose the hormone is a challenging thing. So anytime I'm getting into kind of the hormone spider web with the people I'm working with, it's not the first place I go, but it's always a place we have to go. As sometime, there's always a component of detoxification. Instead of adding more hormone, we're trying to clean out the hormone that's disrupting the existing hormone.
Yep.
It kind of is the opposite of conventional medicine, where there's all about adding. Let's just supersize that.
Yeah.
And sometimes we need to supersize it. I don't see it that often anymore. I really don't. So I think that's all we have for this
Yeah,
one.
actually, one other thing.
Oh, yeah.
If this is interesting to you guys, we are actually putting into place. We're currently stockpiling ideas and topics, and really, we're going to start to roll out content that will help to guide you with some common health stuff. And it really the whole goal of that is to give you the tools to empower you to take some of your care into your own hands. So we're putting together some courses that'll help kind of bridge the gap between
information and application.
That's a perfect way of putting it.
Yeah.
So if there's certain things that you guys are interested in, or, I'm not saying that we can get to everybody's, but if it's a common theme amongst the people emailing us or whatever, then maybe we'll look at doing that as well. If you have topic ideas or whatever, you can email them to us at info@brainstormingwiththedocs.com. You can reach out to us on our individual websites. Mine is northlakeschiropractic.com. Dr. Glenn's is drgharrison.com. And again, stay tuned. There's nothing concrete as far as the date we're going to roll it out, but we are currently working on it, amongst a bunch of other stuff. So
just another thing on the plate.
Yeah, we'll just add it.
But it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
It will happen. Yes.
Yeah. There's our commitment right there. We said it.
So you guys have got us now. And if you guys got value or if you got information that you feel like is applicable to you, please hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications, because we're going to continue to make an effort to roll these out as well. One more iron to the fire, right? And hopefully we come out with something that's applicable to you. We give you some information that you can use going forward, or some strategies that you can implement in your day-to-day life to improve your health as well. So stay tuned, because more are coming.
All right. Well, that sounds good. I look forward to it, and we're committed now. So
all right. Sounds good, man.
Have a good night.
You too.